Evelyn Mercer's hands were shaking, but not from fear. The feeling moving through her was sharper than panic, colder than anger. It was clarity. She stood alone in her apartment, the late afternoon light cutting across the kitchen counter where her phone lay face down. She had not cried. She had not even taken a full breath. Slowly, deliberately, she opened her family group chat. The subject line still read Holt family, cheerful and misleading. She attached the PDF with the red banner across the top and typed a single sentence. What is this? This is a foreclosure notice. She pressed send and watched the read receipts appear one by one. Marianne, Thomas, Madison. 3 names, 3 confirmations, and then nothing. Before I continue, I need to ask you for a favor. Your support means the world to this channel. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps make that possible. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could. Subscribe to the channel. Like this video. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. That simple action makes a huge impact. It helps the channel grow and enables me to continue creating powerful stories. The silence stretched for minutes, heavy and deliberate. Evelyn knew this silence well. It was the pause before someone decided what role she was expected to play. 3 minutes later, Madison replied. Not with words at first, but with a photo. Madison sat beside an infinity pool, skin glowing, sunglasses oversized, a drink balanced effortlessly in her hand. Palm trees curved behind her like a staged fantasy. The caption read, "Finally finding my center in Bali." Evelyn stared at the image, at how far away it felt from the reality pressing in around her. Then the message followed. "Oh, good. You got it. Mom's been stressed. Can you just handle that? I'm in the middle of a mindfulness retreat." Evelyn read the words twice. Handle that. 2 words. They landed with the weight of a lifetime. Those 2 words had followed Evelyn her entire life. Handle it. Smooth it over. Make it work. She was 31 years old, and in her family, that meant she was not a daughter or a sister. She was a solution. The fixer. The support beam quietly holding everything upright while everyone else leaned, rested, and wandered off. Her instinct rose immediately, trained and automatic. She could already feel herself reaching for her phone, preparing to call a bank, to negotiate, to absorb the panic and make it disappear. That was what she had always done. But something inside her shifted. It was not dramatic. There was no surge of rage or tears. It was a clean break, like a rope snapping under too much weight. Evelyn typed 4 words. No, I won't handle it. Her fingers were steady when she pressed send. She did not wait for a response. She minimized the chat and opened her email instead. Buried in a folder she had not touched in weeks was a message labeled Stockholm. Inside was an employment contract from a Swedish design firm, a job she had dreamed about for years. She had delayed answering it for one reason and one reason only: guilt. Who would help her parents? Who would support Madison? What would happen to the house? Evelyn opened the document, scrolled to the final page, and signed her name. Then she clicked accept. The confirmation email arrived seconds later. It felt unreal in its simplicity. One decision. One action. Done. The Holt family did not simply live in Charleston. They lived in an idea of Charleston. An idea of legacy, respectability, and old-world elegance. All of it was embodied in their historic 4-bedroom house on a gaslit street, white columns freshly painted, shutters always polished. It was beautiful. It was also unsustainable. They had not truly been able to afford it for years. That house was a perfect metaphor for Evelyn's family. A facade maintained at any cost, even as the foundation quietly rotted beneath it. And Evelyn had been paying for the paint. She was not treated as a person with limits or dreams of her own. She was the anchor, the heavy thing dropped into the water to keep the ship from drifting, while everyone else became sails chasing sunlight and freedom. But anchors do not just hold ships in place. They get dragged down with them. The foreclosure notice was not a sudden disaster. It was a consequence. A ticking clock Evelyn had helped wind. 5 years earlier, Marianne Holt had sat her down at that same kitchen table, hands folded, voice soft and controlled. "It's just paperwork," her mother had said. "We're consolidating debt. The bank just needs extra security." Evelyn had been 26, still hungry for approval, still believing that cooperation earned love. She signed. 2 weeks later, the charges appeared. $12,000. When Evelyn asked, Marianne waved it away. "That's for Madison. A branding certification." It's essential for her future. Evelyn understood then, slowly and painfully, that she was not building a home. She was financing an illusion. Madison's illusion was expensive. There was the luxury SUV with a $900 monthly lease. Image matters, Marianne had explained, as if it were obvious. You're an architect, Evelyn. You understand aesthetics. Evelyn did understand. She understood that her savings were shrinking while everyone else's lives expanded. She understood that her role was invisible until it was needed. Daniel Reeves had seen it long before she did. He listened when she vented, never interrupting, never minimizing. One night, after she described yet another emergency, he named it. You're a parentified child, he said. He explained calmly, carefully. It was a pattern where a child became the emotional and financial caretaker of the family. They don't love you for who you are, he added gently. They love you for what you do. Evelyn had hated hearing it because it fit too perfectly. Her phone erupted minutes after she sent her refusal. Messages poured in. Marianne called first. Evelyn, call me immediately. You have embarrassed me. Not are you okay? Not what's happening. Just accusation. Thomas followed. You're stressing your mother. Fix this. Fix it. The same command. The family motto. Evelyn muted the chat. Notifications stacked silently. Then a new message appeared, this time from Ryan Keller, Madison's boyfriend. This isn't a good look, Evie. Madison's brand is built on family legacy. You need to think about someone other than yourself. Evelyn stared at the screen, stunned by the audacity. She blocked him without replying and poured herself a glass of water. Her hands did not shake. The anger she felt was cold and precise. Another call came, this time from Aunt Linda Carver. Her voice dripped with concern that felt rehearsed. Family is all we have, Linda said. You can't let that house go. Think about your mother. Evelyn deleted the voicemail halfway through. She checked her phone. 15 missed calls. Dozens of unread messages. Not one of them asked how she was. The realization settled quietly. They were not afraid for her. They were afraid of losing what she provided. Evelyn sat down at her desk and opened her contacts. She called Rebecca Sloan, an old college friend who had become one of the sharpest property lawyers in Charleston. Rebecca answered quickly. Everything okay? Evelyn's voice was calm when she spoke. I'm calling as a client, she said. She explained the second mortgage, the default, the foreclosure notice. I'm not trying to save the house, Evelyn said. I'm trying to save myself. Rebecca was honest. As a co-borrower, Evelyn was fully responsible for the debt. The bank did not care who paid it. There was only one real option left. A forced sale. A partition suit. It's the nuclear option, Rebecca warned. Evelyn thought of the messages, the entitlement, the years of quiet extraction. Do it, she said. Give them 30 days. Refinance without me, or sell the house. When the call ended, Evelyn leaned back in her chair. For the first time in years, the weight on her chest lifted. The anchor had not just loosened. It was coming up, chain by chain. The formal notice arrived 3 days later. Rebecca Sloan sent it by certified mail and email, crisp and unambiguous. The language was polite, professional, and devastating. 30 days. That was the window. 30 days for Marianne and Thomas Holt to refinance the entire outstanding balance in their own names or face a forced sale of the property. Evelyn read the letter twice, not because she doubted it, but because she wanted to feel its finality settle into her bones. This was not a threat. It was a boundary with teeth. That night, her phone stayed silent longer than she expected. Then the calls began. Not angry at first. Confused. Bewildered. As if Evelyn had violated an unspoken rule she was never supposed to question. Marianne left a voicemail, her tone soft and wounded. I don't understand why you're doing this to us, she said. We're your parents. Evelyn did not respond. Silence was not cruelty. It was clarity. The next day, Thomas tried reason. He sent a long message outlining their shared responsibility and reminding her how much the house meant to the family name. Evelyn read it without emotion. That house had always meant more to them than she did. By the third day, the tone shifted. Accusations replaced confusion. Evelyn was selfish. Evelyn was unstable. Evelyn had been influenced. Each message revealed more than it intended. None of them mentioned repayment. None of them offered a plan. They had never expected to solve this problem. They had expected Evelyn to disappear into it. She began packing her apartment in the evenings, folding clothes into boxes labeled neatly by room. Her flight to Stockholm was booked. 3 weeks away. Every taped box felt like a quiet act of defiance. This was not abandonment. This was escape. Daniel Reeves watched the transformation closely. He did not interfere or rush her. He simply stayed present. One evening, as Evelyn wrapped fragile dishes in newspaper, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a video call. Family conference, the group name read. Evelyn almost ignored it. Then she answered. The screen filled with familiar faces crowded around the old kitchen table. Marianne sat in the center, posture rigid, lips pressed tight. Thomas stood behind her, arms crossed. Madison dabbed at her eyes, mascara carefully smudged, performance ready. Marianne spoke first. How could you do this to us? Evelyn did not raise her voice. I didn't do this, she said calmly. I stopped covering it up. Madison sobbed loudly. You're tearing this family apart over money. Evelyn shook her head. This isn't about money. It's about my future. Thomas stepped forward then, his voice measured and reasonable, the tone that had once commanded obedience. We've come up with a solution, he said. You take out a personal loan. You pay off the mortgage. It's simple. You can manage it over time. The silence that followed was absolute. Evelyn stared at them, at how natural the suggestion sounded to them. They were not asking for help. They were asking for sacrifice without limit. No, Evelyn said. Marianne's composure shattered. She shouted about gratitude, about everything they had given her. Evelyn stood up. You didn't raise me, she said. You used me. The words landed cleanly. She ended the call before they could respond. Her hands trembled for a moment afterward. Then they steadied. She was done negotiating her own worth. The backlash was swift and vicious. Marianne contacted relatives, friends, anyone who would listen. Evelyn became a cautionary tale. Ungrateful. Cold. Brainwashed by ambition. Aunt Linda sent messages filled with disappointment disguised as concern. Madison posted vague quotes online about betrayal and family wounds. Evelyn saw none of it. She muted every channel that connected her to the noise. Revenge did not require shouting. It required consistency. Rebecca filed the petition on day 31. The legal machinery moved efficiently. The house was listed for auction. There were no miracles. No sudden refinancing. No secret reserves. The truth surfaced exactly as Evelyn had always known it would. Debt layered on debt. Accounts stretched thin. The image collapsed under scrutiny. The sale date arrived quietly. Evelyn did not attend. She did not need to. When Rebecca called later that afternoon, her voice was professional, almost gentle. It's done, she said. The house sold below market value, just enough to satisfy the bank. The debt was cleared. Evelyn's name was officially released. When the call ended, Evelyn sat on the floor of her half-empty apartment and felt something unexpected. Relief without guilt. Freedom without apology. She had not destroyed anything real. She had only refused to keep lying for them. 2 days later, an email arrived from Marianne, longer than all the others combined. It spoke of confusion, of mistakes, of missing her. It never once said I'm sorry. Evelyn deleted it without hesitation. Closure did not require acknowledgement from people who had never truly seen her. Stockholm was quiet in a way Evelyn had never known. Clean lines. Pale winter light. Snow settling softly along the canal outside her apartment window. Her new life did not arrive with fireworks. It arrived with peace. The design firm welcomed her without expectation beyond her work. No one asked what she could fix. No one hinted at what she owed. She built routines slowly. Morning walks. Long hours in the studio. Evenings spent cooking with Daniel, who joined her weeks later after securing a visiting professorship. One night, as snow fell steadily outside, Evelyn's phone buzzed. An email. Not to her, but forwarded by Daniel. It was from Marianne. The subject line read, "Please help." The message was careful, calculated. Marianne wrote about concern, about Evelyn being confused. Then came the offer. $10,000. A personal advance. If Daniel could convince Evelyn to come to her senses. Evelyn read it twice. Then a third time. Not anger. Not sadness. Just recognition. Even after everything, Marianne's instinct was not reflection. It was control. Daniel's note at the top was brief. This is why we build our own life. I love you. Evelyn deleted the email. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the ground evenly, erasing old marks. She felt nothing for the woman who had tried to buy her silence. Nothing for the house. Nothing for the role she had escaped. Months later, Evelyn stood by the window of her apartment, watching the city wake beneath a pale sky. She thought of the house once, briefly. The gas lamps. The white columns. The weight she had carried for so long she had mistaken it for her own bones. She understood now that cutting a toxic tie was not violence. It was survival. She had not sought revenge through destruction. She had chosen consequence over compliance. That was enough. Her life was no longer defined by emergencies that were never hers to solve. She belonged to herself. The past had gone quiet, not because it was forgiven, but because it no longer had access. Evelyn turned back to the room, to the clean lines and open space, to the future she was finally free to build. The anchor was gone. And for the first time, she was moving forward under her own wind. Freedom did not arrive all at once. It unfolded slowly, in small, almost unremarkable moments. Evelyn noticed it the first time her phone rang and her chest did not tighten. There was no urgency anymore, no instinct to brace for impact. Her days in Stockholm settled into a rhythm defined by intention rather than reaction. At work, she was respected for her precision and restraint. Her colleagues listened when she spoke. They trusted her judgment without testing her loyalty. That alone felt revolutionary. In the evenings, she and Daniel cooked simple meals and talked about ideas instead of problems. No one needed rescuing. No one needed managing. Evelyn realized how much energy she had spent anticipating disaster before it even arrived. Without that constant vigilance, her mind felt lighter, clearer. She slept deeply. She laughed more easily. The absence of chaos revealed something she had never been allowed to explore, who she was when she was not needed. She began sketching again, not for deadlines or approval, but for herself. Clean lines. Open spaces. Structures that stood on their own without hidden supports. The symbolism was not lost on her. She was learning how to design a life that did not collapse the moment she stepped away. Back in the United States, the fallout continued without her. News traveled slowly, filtered through distant acquaintances and the occasional forwarded message. Thomas took an early retirement that was not voluntary. Madison's online presence shifted, her posts growing erratic, her brand losing coherence without the quiet financial buffer that had sustained it. Marianne, stripped of the house that anchored her identity, struggled to maintain appearances. She spoke often about betrayal, about sacrifices unrecognized. What she did not speak about were the choices that led there. Evelyn observed it all from a distance, not with satisfaction, but with detachment. This was the true consequence. Not punishment, but exposure. Without Evelyn absorbing the damage, reality had nothing left to push against. She understood then that revenge did not have to be loud. It could be as simple as stepping aside and allowing gravity to do its work. Her family had built their lives on the assumption that she would always be there. Removing herself was not an attack. It was a correction. One afternoon, Evelyn received a message from an unfamiliar number. It was short. "I hope you're happy," it read. She recognized Marianne's phrasing immediately. The old hook, baited with guilt. Evelyn stared at the words for a moment, then deleted them. Happiness was no longer something she felt compelled to defend. She did not owe explanations to people who only valued her presence when it was useful. Daniel noticed the change in her posture, the way she no longer shrank at the mention of home. "You're different," he said once, not as a question. Evelyn smiled. "I'm honest," she replied. That was the difference. She was no longer negotiating reality to keep others comfortable. The fear of being labeled cruel had faded. She had learned that boundaries often look like cruelty to those who benefit from their absence. The real revenge revealed itself quietly, months later, in an email from Rebecca Sloan. It was a brief update, sent almost as an afterthought. The house's sale had triggered a deeper review of the Holt family's finances. Several irregularities had surfaced. Nothing criminal, but enough to permanently close certain doors. Credit lines frozen. Reputations quietly diminished. Evelyn read the email once and archived it. She felt no urge to share the news. Vindication did not need witnesses. She understood now that the power she had reclaimed was internal. No one could mortgage her future again without her consent. That knowledge settled into her like bedrock. On a cold evening, Evelyn stood on a bridge overlooking the canal, city lights reflecting softly in the water below. She thought of the version of herself who had believed love was earned through endurance. who had mistaken obligation for belonging. That woman had not been weak. She had been trained, and she had learned her way out. Evelyn inhaled deeply, the air sharp and clean. She was not defined by what she had escaped, but by what she had chosen. Her life no longer revolved around fixing, smoothing, or sacrificing. It expanded instead, steady and self-directed. The revenge was complete, not because her family had fallen, but because she had risen beyond their reach. The last attempt came quietly, almost politely. It arrived as a handwritten letter forwarded by an international courier, the kind that signaled effort and intention. Evelyn recognized her mother's handwriting immediately, tight, controlled, elegant. Marianne wrote about memories, about birthdays, about the way families fracture when pride takes over. She wrote that time had softened her anger, that perhaps they could start fresh. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of harm, just a gentle request for Evelyn to call, to reconnect. Evelyn folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. She did not feel tempted. The words carried the same structure as every message before them: return to your role, resume your position, make us whole again. She understood now that reconciliation, as Marianne imagined it, required Evelyn's surrender. That was not reconciliation. That was restoration of control. Daniel watched her quietly as she slid the envelope into a drawer. You don't have to decide anything right now, he said. Evelyn nodded. She already had. Growth had taught her something simple and unforgiving. People who benefit from your silence will always call your voice aggression. She did not hate her family. She simply no longer trusted them with access to her life. That distinction mattered. It meant she was free of revenge fantasies and free of guilt. She had reached the place beyond reaction. The place where peace lived. Work deepened. Evelyn was promoted to lead a new project focused on sustainable urban housing. The irony was not lost on her. She was now building structures designed to endure without exploitation. Her confidence came not from proving herself, but from knowing herself. She mentored younger designers, careful never to reward self-erasure as dedication. When one intern apologized for leaving early to rest, Evelyn told her, "You don't have to earn rest here." Saying it felt like closing a loop she had lived inside for decades. Occasionally, memories surfaced uninvited. The kitchen table. The gas lamps. The sound of her name spoken as a demand. But memory no longer held authority. It was simply information. Evelyn had learned that healing did not erase the past. It reclassified it. What once defined her now simply explained her. She no longer argued with ghosts. A year passed. Then another. No more messages came from Charleston. The silence this time was real. Not strategic. Not performative. Just absence. Evelyn did not fill it. She had learned that some gaps are not meant to be bridged. They are meant to remain open as proof of distance earned. On a spring morning, Evelyn and Daniel signed a lease on a larger apartment overlooking the water. The space was spare, intentional. Nothing excessive. Nothing fragile. That night, as the city settled into dusk, Evelyn realized she had stopped bracing for the future. She was no longer waiting for something to collapse. Stability, she discovered, felt quiet. Almost ordinary. She thought once more of the word that had defined her for so long. Anchor. She understood now that an anchor is not a flaw. It is only dangerous when it is forced to carry a ship that refuses to repair itself. Letting go had not made her selfish. It had made her honest. Evelyn Mercer did not win by destroying her family. She won by refusing to disappear inside them. The revenge was not ruin. It was release. She belonged fully to her own life now. No debt, no role, no obligation disguised as love. And in that clean, hard-earned freedom, she finally understood the truth she wished someone had told her earlier. Belonging is not something you pay for. It is something you choose. If this story resonated with you, I want you to know something important. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. And you are not wrong for walking away from what was hurting you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fighting harder. It's finally letting go. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story meant something to you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and I'll see you in the next story.